Hello, I'm Keith Richard, Master Casting Instructor, certified by Fly Fishers International. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why does the haul sometimes tend to decrease our loop size. Well, if you look at this diagram for a few moments, I'll explain what I'm talking about. If this represents the fly cast in this position, this direction, this is the position of the rod at the end of the cast, and this represents the back cast, this direction, and this is the end of the rod at the end of the back cast. This is the arc that's created by that cast, and it produces a subsequent loop, and we're going to say that it creates the loop here designated in bold blue polka dots, and the back cast generates this loop shape in bold blue dots here. Now, the reason it creates that loop shape is because the rod tip path that it took is shown here, right here. Now, I've discussed SLP, our straight line path of the rod tip, in past videos. And that is designated or symbolized here by the point, a straight line from this point to this point, which is, say, on the back cast, it's from the generation of the cast where it begins to the end of the cast where the cast stops. That is a theoretical straight line. If we could cast with with that rod tip taking a perfectly straight line path, then our loop would be so tight it would collide into our rod tip. So what happens is the tip of the path the path that the rod tip takes is typically something like this. So when we generate a haul with that cast, what we're doing is we're generating line speed, but we're also creating additional rod bend. And that additional rod bend causes the rod tip to take a slightly lower path than it would without that extra rod bend, lowering closer to that theoretical straight line path that we talked about. And because it's closer to the SLP, it generates a tighter loop as a consequence of it. Now, the exception to this would be individuals, competitive casters, for example, that get maximum rod bend out of their rod during the cast before they incorporate a haul. They incorporate the haul at the end of the cast, very similar to Lefty Kreh style of casting. And by doing so, they've already maximized the rod bend, so additional haul doesn't create any additional rod bend, it creates line speed for them. And that's how the competitors get more distance. But for most of us mortals out there that are not competitors, we're not generating maximum rod bend. We're creating a somewhat of a rod bend to create a somewhat flat trajectory or somewhat flat path of the rod tip, which creates a decent loop. But when we incorporate the haul, we lower that path of the rod tip takes closer to the straight line path, and therefore generating tighter loops. We'd like to emphasize again that the SLP was discussed in previous videos, so you can review how SLP is how we come about SLP if there's any questions. This is obviously a video for more advanced casters, not beginners. For you advanced casters, I would like to encourage you to, once you've mastered the haul, go outside with about 50 feet of line, put your non-dominant hand in your pocket, and make some cast with about 50 feet of line out, and see what kind of loops you can generate. Use maximum power in your cast to try to get maximum rod bend. Then incorporate the haul into your casting and see if you don't not only increase line speed, but also get tighter loops. Again, I'm Keith Richard, Master Casting Instructor, certified by Fly Fishers International. I would encourage you to visit aherousa's.com's website and consider becoming a friend today. Thank you for watching.